So it is Thursday, 2nd of December 2021, and welcome to this session, the first session of the month. Again, those of you that have been around for a while, you know that every month we have a particular theme of business development, business growth, could be profits, could be sales, whatever. This month's theme, because it's December, obviously because we're coming into January next month, is breakthrough years. So what we've got throughout the month, I think with Christmas, there's 3 Thursdays this month. We've got a series of hot seats with a few of our, the clients who this year have done really well. Or and when we say it's not necessarily well in terms of revenue, they have done that as well. But it's ones who have made transformations from, the way they were doing things, and had sort of a breakthrough year in their own way. So there's sort of varying different themes of what that would look like. So we've got a few coming up throughout the month, and we'll release the details of them as and when. But this week we've lucky enough to have Michelle, or 2 Michelles, we say, and Inez for the very first hot seat. So yeah, again, guys, thank you for doing it. Thank you for giving it the time. Really appreciate you doing this. Again, for everyone else, like as we go along, if you've got questions, you've got things you want to know more on, use the chat box. I think the sessions where we get to hear from our clients and what's working for them, there's some of my favorite sessions, and probably the sessions that have some of the biggest breakthroughs for you guys as well. Because it's one thing me and Terry sort of talking at you, telling you, this is the way you should do it. It's another thing when you hear someone has taken what we've said, adapted it for their own business, and got the results on the other side. So again, I want to encourage you to ask questions. Take advantage of this opportunity that you've got. Terry, anything you want to add to
that? No, I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. So let's get further to. Before we get started, I'm going to come to you first of all, Michelle Ansel. Can you just give us an overview of who you are, your business, and who you serve? And it's the same question then for Inez and Michelle as well, please.
Hi. So I'm Michelle Ansel. I'm managing partner of Douglas Jackson. So I'm a founding owner of the business. We were established in 2007. And we supported, I suppose, then the customer service and contact center industry. And now I consider myself a high-end retained search consultant for customer and digitally led businesses and brands.
Fantastic, thanks for that. And Inez, Michelle, you're just an overview of yourself and who you are and who you serve and that type of thing, please. And also where you're based as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I go, Michelle? I'm sure that's fine. So we are JobNet Africa. We help businesses in Africa gain profit and time by sending them the top 5% candidates in the market, not just on the market. We've been around for 10 years. I'm from the Netherlands. We started in the Netherlands from my kitchen table, all by myself. So 10 years in, we're a team of 6. We're based in South Africa. So we have an entity in the Netherlands and in South Africa. And the team is everywhere. So we work remotely mostly. And our clients are international companies active on the African continent. It's not very much sector driven. It's more geographically driven. That's us.
Awesome. Great. We're staying with you, Inez. Just give us an overview of where your business was, in fact, let's take everybody back to December, the end of November, the beginning of December, certainly in the UK and the way things were. As in the UK, we were just about entering our second lockdown. I remember having these meetings, and I won't mention anybody in particular, but I think we all know who we're referring to. She was well pissed off at the time, when the government made the announcement about going into a second lockdown. And honestly, we all were at the time, because it's like, look, we thought there was sort of green shoots of recovery. And then the government said, no, sorry, we're almost going to have to cancel Christmas, go back from working from home. And we're thinking, sugar, now what? So yeah, just take us back to that time for you, Michelle. I know you, Inez, I know you were in South Africa at the time, but what it was like for you this time last year.
It was a weird time, because this time last year, actually, it had picked up a little bit already, with where the first lockdown was much worse for us. But stuff is on hold and cancelled, and investments, not coming through. So you kind of feel work slipping through your fingers. Yeah, it was quite a scary time.
Scary time, yeah. Yeah. Thanks. And Michelle, how are things for you guys?
Yeah, so it had been similar to what Inez said, October, I think it was like sort of mid-October, wasn't it, or something, November, and literally the market just disappeared again. And we'd had an okay summer, considering we'd had an awful first 6 months, but we had an okay summer, and then it just all went again. And then we sort of went through another 3 or 4 months with basically virtually zero income again. So yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest.
And staying with you, Michelle, what was sort of the sort of main challenges or obstacles for you as an owner and director of a search firm?
Everything, to be honest. You just had the rug pulled from under you. I mean, everything that the ground that you sort of stand upon just was no longer, well, I felt it was just no longer stable. Just every decision that you were making was just on sort of gut and just hoping for the best, really, and not knowing what tomorrow might bring. So yeah, it was really challenging.
And what was it for you? Same with you, Michelle. What was the biggest challenge for you in that period as you looked ahead?
Me, Inez.
Michelle, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, what? So you on top of the
overall, what was the biggest challenge as you sat there and looked ahead? What did you see was going to be the biggest challenge for you?
Well, keeping the business going, obviously employing the staff, making sure that we don't lose more money, everything really. I mean that.
Yeah, that's a bit of everything. And for you, Inez, what was a sort of big challenge for you? What you anticipated?
Yeah, we've been bootstrapping all along the year. So we work from co-working spaces sometimes, so we could cancel that. We travel a lot, so obviously there was no travel, so that saved us a lot of cost. So the results wasn't actually that bad eventually, but that was more because of the cost cutting than turnover. So that was scary, and just not knowing, and it's very frustrating as well. Especially if you work on contingency, and I'm sure we will hit that topic, where it's just cancelled. That's just it. Doesn't matter how much time you had in it already, which is gone.
Yeah. And in that period, as you look back now and you reflect on that period, staying with you, Inez, what was your thinking, or what were you doing at the time that you think, upon reflection, that probably wasn't a good idea, though it seemed a good idea at the time? What were the mistakes you think you were making at that time?
I think because I've been doing it for quite a number of years, I hit eventually the point where I got so frustrated with the contingency, because I was the person, I'm very opportunistic, so I jump on everything I see, and I try to work along, etc. And I just got to the point where I was so fed up, and I think it was the breaking point. Then on top of that, and it was nobody's fault, but it just felt like, been pushing for 8 years back then, I guess, or 9 years, and back to square zero.
So staying with you, what was the thing that was really frustrating at that period, that you thought, enough already?
What was so frustrating?
Yeah, what in particular was frustrating that, put it bluntly, really pissed you off?
I think you put so much effort and trust into your client, and then nothing comes back when shit hits the fan. So it wasn't really cooperation, and I just got fed up with that totally.
Right. So that was from working with on contingent. Yeah, excellent. And what was it for you, Michelle?
I mean, really, it was the lack of control, I think. I can't say anything more than that. It just was that was the most frustrating thing. Just everything that was known to this point was taken away, and there was nothing you could do about it, or it felt like there was nothing you could do about it.
Yeah, you've raised a really good point there. And whenever you're feeling stressed, it's an indication that you feel out of control, and that's what the stress is. If no matter what's happening, if you think, actually I can see a way out of this, it's less stress. But when you feel like, example, if you're working on contingency and the client just pulls the plug and says, well, tough luck, buddy, but we're pulling the plug, and you've got no control over that, that's what creates that shift. So that totally makes sense. Before I move on, just for everybody, if anybody's got any questions as we're going along, please get the words out. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have as we go on. I'll just put it in the chat box. So I'll come back to you then, Inez. What did you do differently? What you then looked at it and thought, to hell with this, enough already. What was a transformation for you when you went, I'm going to do things differently? And sorry, Drew, feel free to come in as well, Drew.
I think because we got in touch, I think February or something, and January and February were just terrible. And me and Michelle were in the Netherlands, and in February it was just all very depressing, and we were kind of stuck there in a lockdown and couldn't go back to South Africa. Just so fed up with, yeah, we just needed a change, but we didn't really know what, I guess. And yeah, no, I think that is that. And I don't know, probably stumbled upon something on Google.
So you don't have to give us the exact numbers, but typically, just share a bit more about what you were doing, the salary you were working at, the sort of fees you were charging, and the service you were offering, say March, at that time.
Yeah, so the standard fee, we were working almost between 15 and 17.5%, something like that. We'd usually have an upfront fee of maybe 750 euros or 1,000 euros, but then non-exclusive. And we would have a placement ratio 1 in 3, and the average value was about 7,500 euros.
Thank you. Sorry, Drew, would you say something then? You looked like you were about to say something.
Oh, wait.
Okay. And thanks. Michelle, what was things sort of for you like in the business?
In terms of the revenue and the fees, or something else?
Yeah, the fees you were charging, your fill rates, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I mean, before this year, we had about an 8K average fee. We were looking at roles between sort of 40 and 60,000 roughly, and our percentages were around sort of 17% on average.
And was that all contingent?
No, we had. We've always tried to do a bit of retained, and we have done the odd client and the odd retainer here and there. And last year we did have one client that we hired 5 roles with on a retained basis, which was quite good for us. And we did win 2 clients, that client and another client, on retained. So we did have sort of 2 clients that did help us out quite a lot last year. From that perspective.
So what was your fill rate, Michelle, if
on the retained or contingent?
No, overall for the business, what sort of percentage of the roles were you working on, were you filling, do you think?
As across the whole team, it was roughly 1 in 4. Some of the consultants were 1 in 2, and some were sort of 1 in 7 or 8.
Those numbers there, just for everybody else, they're not unusual. The average contingent recruiter will fill between sort of 10 and 40%. But even if you're at the top end and you're filling 40%, it does mean that most of the time you're working, you're not getting paid. And we talked earlier about no control. You're now working for somebody and you've got no control over whether you're going to get paid or not. Can you see how that's going to compound that frustration? I'll keep coming to you, Drew, just to see if there's anything you want to ask now. Are you okay?
Yeah, I guess like it's more something for Inez. Like, one of the things that I think that you really bought into earlier on this year was, getting a better grasp of your numbers. Even when Terry was asking, what did your fee used to be, and you knew exactly the decimal point. Yeah, can you talk a bit about that? What that gave you, how that's helped you throughout this year? Because I think out of everyone in the group, you've probably done that.
Yeah.
At least what I can see from the group calls, like the most aggressively.
I think you probably gave that sheet at the right moment, and we were probably looking for something to hold on to. But we've been discussing this with the team a lot as well, the difference between the lead and the lag indicators. And I was so wound up on lag indicators all the time, and I was starting to take things personally as well. Whereas now it's so nice to just look at your lead indicators and, beat yourself up over that, but at least you can do something about it. And then let the lag indicators be a little bit more. So I think I needed that bit of something to hold on to. And you gave it just with that simple sheet at that day. I think it was good timing.
Just on that, just for people that don't know, can you explain what, when you say lag and lead indicators, like what does that mean to you?
Sorry, the sheet you mean?
No, you're saying lag and lead indicators. Some people won't get the terminology. What does that, in terms of your business, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so lead indicators are things you can actually control. So that could be a KPI saying, I want to do so many chats, so many calls, so many invites, stuff that you can control yourself. I mean, maybe you have to work overtime, but it is stuff you can control yourself. And then the lag indicators are stuff coming out of that. So people that reply to you, people that want to talk to you, people that want to buy from you. So those are the things you can't really control. You can improve it, and obviously you should keep track of it. And the keeping track of those ratios can really teach you where to improve and what's going better or worse.
Again, it comes back to thinking about control. The lead indicators, the activity, for maybe another word for it. So, how many people you connect to, how many emails you send, how many posts you put out there. You've got ultimate control over that. Nobody can stop you from doing those things. And it's a bit like, I think it's the Beatles when they wrote Imagine. The story goes that they wrote the song Imagine because they had a tax bill. And they were sitting around one day and they said, I know, let's write a song to pay the tax bill and to build a swimming pool. And apparently that's where the song Imagine comes from. But the same applies to you. Whatever it is you want to achieve over the next 12 months, you haven't always got the control over the final destination, but you've got ultimate control over the activity that you do. So let's say, for example, you need to have 20 meetings with 20 hiring managers every month. And you know that if you do that, you'll win 2 retainers. Well, there's activity that you can do to get those 20 meetings, and all things being equal, you're then going to get 2 retainers. So that's what we mean by the lag and the lead. The lead indicators things that you actually control, and you probably gathered from Michelle as well. She knows her numbers, so she talked about 1 in 3 conversion rate. She gets 3 job orders, but she fills 1 of them. And knowing those numbers all make such a difference. So you can literally, at the beginning of next year, say, right, this is what I want to generate within my business. What's the activity that I need to do? Now, I get you may not know what all the activity is, but you know there's certain things that you need to do, that if you do that, you'll speak to so many decision makers, you'll get so many interviews, and you'll get so much business. But it's taking back control of what's going on. Anything that you'd want to add to that, Michelle? What's been said there?
Me?
In terms of lag and lead indicators?
Yeah, me, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
we've got 2 Michelle, so that confuses everything.
1 second, I'm just quickly going to check whether they're not locking me out here because they're turning off the lights. So I'll be back.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would concur with that in terms of the numbers, really. I think certainly for me and my team, because I have a team around me, I think you can quickly, you can sort of lose faith very quickly and sort of feel helpless, and as I said, a lack of control, and so you don't do anything, and you sort of start not to do what you need to do because you just think, well, what's the point? But the reality is if you know the numbers, and it's irrelevant whether the numbers are 50 or whether they're 10, if you know the numbers and sort of just keep doing what you can control and what creates activity, then eventually something will come, whether it be today or in 3 months or in 6 months. But you do need to have that faith and that resilience and that confidence, I think, in the process, and that commitment, really.
Yeah,
I think you've raised a great point there. Sorry, Lou, about resilience. I think that's I think in most walks of life, people got to think, yeah, well, if I just do this, I'll get this. But most of the things that you do, including this and on this program, most of the activity, most of the marketing that you do is going to be ignored. And you've got to be okay with that. And you've got to have that resilience, because those that don't have the resilience then quit. You're absolutely right, Michelle. Really good point there about the importance of resilience. Over to you, Drew.
Yeah, I think just to add to what's been said about numbers and knowing your numbers, I think especially this time of year, but throughout, I think one of the biggest mistakes you see people make is that they'll go into next year or this time of year, they're sort of thinking about what they want to achieve in the following 12 months. And it's very easy to come up with a revenue goal you want to hit or financial figure you want to hit. It means nothing if you don't also know the exact activity that's going to go into that. Like, so sometimes we set a goal without knowing what's going to go into it. And then, we might even hit the goal, but we might not, but there's no control there. When you know the numbers, as it links to your goal. So, whatever you did now, when you look at your numbers, what numbers did this year, and you look at, okay, if I want to increase it by 50%, 100%, whatever, I also need to increase the input by 50%, 100%. Is that possible? Is that even doable? If I'm making 100 calls now, is it possible a day? Can I make 200 calls? And if the answer is no, then we need to adjust the goal, or maybe adjust the structure of your business, or maybe adjust the process that you're using to get there. But I think people sometimes set goals without really looking at, okay, what is it actually going to take for me to get to that goal? And that's why, they never get a grasp of that. And that's why they struggle to hit them.
Yeah.
I think it can also push you to go, to do more, but it can also slow you down in a good way, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they never do enough. But it can also, if you do it well, make you feel like, okay, I've reached my goal for today. That's fine. I don't have to do more.
Yeah, and again, it's another really good point there about as entrepreneurs, and we've all of us here in this room are on this call question whether we're doing enough. We question if we're doing it right. And we've all talked about this, openly and in these groups. We question and we say things like, "Who am I to post something?" And this fraud, this imposter syndrome that many business owners go through. So with that in mind, I'll come to you first, Michelle. You said something with us. I don't know how long ago it was, about some of the challenge you had initially about meeting hiring managers. What were some of the mental blocks that you personally have had to get through? You talked about resilience a bit earlier. What are some of the other mental things that you've had to sort of break through? And I'm asking the same question as well, Inez.
I think, and I said this, I think a few weeks ago, I can't remember, but it's hard to make new habits, and habits and existing habits are even harder to break, aren't they? And I think, there's this slight, it's like an elastic band that keeps constantly pulling you back, and because as well, it can take time, with what Inez said about the lead and the lag, you questioning yourself whether you're doing the right thing. And I think you just have to get to that stage where you commit and then you make these new habits, regardless of the pain that you have to go through and the uncomfortableness that you have to go through, really, because otherwise you just keep going back to how things are, and you're in an in-between sort of world, and you just don't get the results. So that's what I think. I think I've lost the question now. I don't know if I've answered it.
Okay. Or... You have, Michelle. Yeah.
Right.
You have. Yeah. And is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes. So I think the blockage for me was mainly not so much the pushing out messages and all that, but actually asking for what we're worth. And what do you find yourself worth? So asking for a retainer if you're not sure, if you're worth that, is a big thing. So it was more mindset, I think, that could feel.
Yeah, and I'll come to you. I want to quickly just go around the room. I just want to get some feedback from a few people. So Don, I want to come to you first of all, because I can see a picture there. I want to come to Nick and Andy. So Don, Nick, and Andy. Just feedback, thoughts, and observations, please.
Terry, I apologize. I had to step away for a few minutes, so I'm going to defer.
Okay, no worries, buddy. Nick?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is really helpful. I think we've met regularly and talked about the pains that we've gone through. And I think it's really interesting. I think for those that are still going through it, I think this is really helpful to understand that you've got to persevere and just believe in yourself, right? And just know that what you're doing is working, and just don't give up. So I think everything you've said, I can definitely resonate, and now it's paying off. What can I say, right?
Yeah. And we're going to interview you in a couple of weeks, actually, Nick. So I'm looking forward to your interview.
Yeah.
So thanks for that, buddy. Yeah. Andy.
Yeah. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Andy.
Hear me okay? Yeah, interesting listening in, but yeah, fully agree. It's as old as business owners, and I hope you hear me okay. It's noise in the background, but yeah, us as a business owners, we probably all go through the same thing on a regular basis, whether it be from you guys or co-recruiters doing the same thing, and it is a matter of just keeping going. I think setting those goals, resetting goals, and focusing on it going in the right direction. And of course, I think activity is key to everything as well. And just redoing that activity over and over again. And I definitely, I that note I just put on there saying about when I look back, I've been in recruitment for 17 years, and when I think about the work I've put in for not getting any return for that, and that's been sometimes months and months of work for no return, probably years and years of work when I calculate it all together, it's a crazy thing to do. So that's so yeah, definitely that's a key thing. I think is valuing ourselves as recruiters, the work that we do, and we are professionals at what we do. We're very thorough, very good. We know our industry inside out. So it's right that we should really get paid for on a retainer for us starting to work for somebody else who is going to be as equally as professional as us. And it's often that thing, I think, as recruiters, we can be seen as like a second-class person to the client, but actually, fact, no, we're an equal, and we also know what we're doing.
Yeah. And I don't know, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't know any other industry where you say to the client, let me do the work first, and if I succeed, you can pay me. I mean, you try going to a restaurant or going anywhere and saying, can I try the food first, and I'll let you know if I'm going to pay you. I don't know any other industry. And I think the other point you made there, Andy, about value is absolutely right. And I've said this many a time. Whatever fee you're getting now is just a reflection of your own personal self-worth. That's all it is. And you can't charge any more than you believe you're worth. And everybody here, you will know recruiters in your market who are actually charging more. And the emotional side of you says, well, if I charge perhaps a bit less, I'll get more business. And in recruitment, we have no evidence that whatsoever. We all know recruiters out there that charge £1,000 or $1,000 for placement. I've met recruiters that charge 2.5%. Are they dominating the market? We have no evidence of that whatsoever. So your fees are just a reflection of your own personal self-worth, despite all the arguments you'll have yourself as to why you think you have to be just that bit less. And if you want to be really logical about it, if you're saying your fees to be competitive, surely it should be the lowest fee. But if, let's say, the market's between 12% and 20%, and you go, well, I charge 15% because that's the mid-range, there is no logic to that, because you're just the same as everybody else. You know, that isn't competitive. Either be very, very cheap or very, very expensive and justify it. But again, that comes up all the time. Back to you, Michelle. So you told us where you were, you know, a year ago and how things were then. So an average fee of 8,000 at 17%. Tell us about where you are now, please, Michelle. And the same question for you in a second, Inez.
Yeah, so our average fee this year is gone up to 17,000. Where our fee levels are between sort of 60 and 120 now, and an average percentage fee is 22%. And this year, 60% of our business, well, sorry, that's wrong. 60% of the roles that we've taken were retained, or the clients that we've taken. We've still got a few contingency roles, but 78% of the work that we've billed has been retained versus some older contingent clients. We've won 11 new retained clients this year.
You've won 11 new retained clients this year alone.
And more than half of those gave us multiple campaigns. So we had 2 or 4 campaigns off more than half.
Well done, Michelle. Excellent. And as you go back to this time last year, and if I'd said to you, well, look, this is a possibility that you could possibly win 11 or 12 and you can get higher fees and everything, what do you think your response would have been if I'd suggested that to you this time last year?
I mean, I'm sure I would think yes. I mean, I think we knew we could, and we just needed to make it happen, really. And that just meant, you know, you had to shift and start believing it. I mean, it's funny because, you know, well, for the last 15 years, beyond that, I've been in recruitment longer than that, you know, I'd settle for £7,000 or £8,000 as a fee, and I'd be happy doing that work on a contingency basis. And now, you know, when I look at the fee, and even if it's a £25,000 fee or a £30,000 fee, I think, oh, it's not very much really for all the work. And it's crazy how, you know, shifted in that sort of short period of time, really. But again, it's, you know, how much value you put on in the realization of the work that you actually do. Just thinking about it.
Well, that's a classic sign there of raising your standards. So what you've done is, I think, you know, and again, please, anybody here, feel free to correct me. I think one of the things this group does is, because you hear of guys getting fees of 40, 50,000, and then somebody else gets a fee of 25,000, you think, well, you know, but it's great how it raises every standards. Julie and Don, I'm going to come to you in terms of your questions in a moment. So I have seen them. Thanks for that. Inez, you told us where you were. Sorry, Michelle, thanks for that. You told us where you were this time last year. Tell us about where you are now in terms of fees, percentage contingent, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so we only started in March, and so we haven't had a full year yet, but we are now between 18 and 22%. So we came from 17.5. Everything we do is exclusive, most of it retained or in some way a shortlist fee or some type of upfront fee. And the average value is 10,000 euros, but it is for every assignment that we start, whereas the 7.5 would be the average value of a placement.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, the numbers, it's not like we've booked hundreds. So, you know, the numbers, they are correct, but they can fluctuate a little bit still.
Yeah, sure. Sure. This is a question for both of you. I'm going to come to you. I'll stay with you actually, Inez, and I'll come to Michelle. Julie's asked is, and you can't give everything, and we haven't got enough time. But if you were to summarise how you made that shift, how would you summarise it? In the same question for you, from where you are to where you are now. And somebody says, how did you do that? What would be a summary of that for Julia?
Yeah, I think you should write down the activities that you do on a weekly basis, for instance, and just tick it or count it or whatnot, and then follow the course and just keep adding activities that are being explained and keep measuring and just pump the numbers up until you get to do more, basically, but focus and make sure you use your time well.
Okay, thank you.
So if you were to summarize that, it's I'm going to smile at this, but it's about taking action, really, isn't it? It's just about regular and consistent action.
Yeah, but measure it as well, because or else you feel lost. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Inez. Michelle, what would you say to that? I'm going to come to your question in a minute, Don. In fact, I'll come to you next, Don, for this question.
So Julia, the first thing I'd do is change the level of who we were talking to, so increase the level of the contacts that we have in the industry that you serve, and then secondly, change to the fact that I am purely a retained search consultant and not accept any contingent work, and then set a fee that you're unwilling to go below to a degree within, you know, a possible negotiation if you really want to work for the client, and those really, that was how we sort of changed.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that we do a lot around mindset, and one of the things that we're constantly going on about is your own self-image, because again, you will only perform to your self-image, and if your self-image is, I'm going to recruit at 20, 30,000, then that's your self-image. You're going to perform at that level. But if you make a decision, actually, and this is, and I think, again, please correct me if you disagree with this, it's easier to recruit somebody at 150,000 than somebody on 50,000. And if anybody thinks differently, please, please share. So, but most people won't, most recruiters won't, because there's this, but that's about their self-image. Me recruiting somebody at 150, 200,000. So if your self-image is actually, I'm comfortable recruiting at 40, 50,000, there's a bit of a challenge there. And again, you probably gathered there, Julia, a lot of this, again, I'll repeat myself, but it is about raising your standards. It's about saying, yeah, I know I did that previously, but now I want to go to another level. Yeah. Thanks for
Similar
that.
to what I said on the fees, really. And I've got a couple of roles at like 80 grand at the moment that I'm bidding on. And I sort of, in the back of my mind, I don't want the work, you know, because again, I just want the 120k, 150k work, you know, and it is, I mean, you just have, you have to get there gradually. But it is just a shift in how you think.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Don, I want to come to you. You just want to share your question, Don?
Sure. And I sent this directly to Terry because I thought I might be at the risk of being redundant since I missed a few minutes. But the question really is, if you could distill down the number one thing, Trinez and Michelle, that you've done or changed in 2021 in your business that's provided you the single highest return on investment, what comes to mind?
Great question, by the way, Don.
Telling everybody that I'm a retained search consultant.
Really? Just having that conversation?
I think so. I mean, yeah, I'd say anything else, although it will have delivered leads and what have you, I think if I hadn't have made that shift, I would still be negotiating at 15 or 18% or taking contingent work or exclusivity. And so ultimately, by me saying and making that, drawing that line in the sand, it's immediately elevated my fees. It's immediately got rid of clients that wouldn't work that way. And I'm surprised, if I'm honest, the sort of, I don't want to say ease, as in I don't want to give the impression that, you know, I've got leads and clients desperate to work with me and that I'm batting them off, because that's not true. But the ones that I do win, I'm surprised at the ease that I'm able to win them just by changing the language. And that's how I would do what I work now. They don't even try and negotiate most of the time, or the negotiation is so much less than it would have been. And, you know, in some respects, when I do negotiate, they're like, oh, thanks so much for being so supportive, you know, and just giving that bit. We know that that's not what, you know, whereas before they'd be like, oh, you know, you've got to come on our PSL at 15% or whatever. And I'd be like, oh yeah, okay then. Whereas now I just go, no, this is what I am and this is what I do. And, you know, not a lot. Well, some have said, yeah, okay, we'll do business with you.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thanks for that, Michelle. Inez, anything? What would your answer be to Don as to what's the one thing you changed or did in the last 12 months that's provided the highest return on investment?
I think it's the same. Stopped contingency straight away. And we had to let go to quite a few clients as well, which is scary, but it definitely is paid off. And maybe adding to the numbers that we were discussing, the first 6 months of this year, we had 16,500 euros on average, which was very bad. And that's also why we got to the breaking point. And we're now on 39,000 a month. So we've more than doubled our turnover a month.
Wow.
Just by not taking contingency work, really.
And I know there's some new people in here, and you know, there will inevitably a bit of conflict going on in your head, but it doesn't make sense. But here's something worth considering, that out there in terms of hiring managers, there are 3 types of hiring managers. There's a price buyer. So if you offer your service at 10%, well, I offer it at 9.5%, I guarantee I will get the business. But that percentage of the market only makes up about 20% of the market, and they don't value your expertise or anything. They just want the best deal, and they will constantly screw you down or me down to get the best deal. But it's a very small percentage of the market. There's another group of hiring managers, they're called relationships. So price is the 4th most important thing. What they value most of all is the relationship and your expertise. So they're going to talk to you and ask you questions about your expertise and can you solve their problem. But they're more concerned about the relationship. But that's the biggest part of the market. They reckon it's about 60%. And at the very top, you've got premium buyers. And by the way, this is in any area, whether it's buying a pair of shoes, a car, or watch, anything, you have these 3 types of buyers. So the premium buyer, if you offer them a premium service, they want it. We've all got friends who, if they're going to buy anything, they always want the premium of that, whatever that thing is, but it's a concert ticket, a pair of shoes, or whatever. Well, the hiring managers like that as well. And part of it is how you position yourself. So if you've got a website that says things like, we won't be beaten on price, or here's our prices, or here's our terms, you'll position yourself you're targeting the price buyer. Because that's all they'll say, send me over your terms. That's all they want to know. What's your price? And they say, can you sharpen your pencil? And you say, actually, I can't. And we're probably not right for you. You don't qualify to work with us the way that we operate. And that's fine. Because ultimately, none of us are here to serve every single hiring manager out there. Think about it. If you're getting fees of 30, 40,000 fees, hell, you do 2 retainers a month every month, and you're doing a million a year. You don't need to work with everybody out there, just a select few. I'm just going to come around the room just to get some feedback. So I'm going to come to you, Jeremy, as you just posted in there. Then I'm going to come to you, Stuart, and then you, Bill.
Hey.
Hey, hi, buddy.
We just talked yesterday, didn't we?
We did.
Good to see everybody. Do you want my thoughts on Michelle and Inez going to retainer, or do you want just generic feedback?
Both, please, Jeremy.
Okay. My generic feedback is, and since obviously I don't know Michelle that well or Inez that well, but I've been in the program now for a year, and I definitely have seen a transformation from, I'm going to just call it a confidence standpoint. I think there's a conviction, if you will, for both of them to pursue what they want, and what they wanted were retainers. And I think that's a big part of it. It's nerve-wracking trying to pitch a retainer, and it's nerve-wracking knowing that you potentially are pushing away business by asking for something that is potentially a bit of a risk for the employer to take on. And it's so easy just to say, well, okay, I'll just go ahead and take contingent. And I think a lot of people want to make the move to retained, and then end up, due to the adversity, kind of backing up and just acquiescing to contingent because it's easy, right? It's relatively easy. And what I can see, and again, now both these ladies have mentioned, I mean, there's just, it's an obvious, they're not backing down from that. And that's the big step. I think Michelle mentioned earlier too, is having a minimum fee. I think for any career recruiter, you got to have a minimum fee, and you just got to draw that line in the sand. So I love seeing that transformation from both of them. And just to add on to my comment, I'm coming up on 15 years in the business, and my experience has been that clients that are purely contingent only are typically very dysfunctional with their own hiring process. They know it, and that's why they don't want to put the retainer up, is because they know that likely they're going to be the ones to fail, and they don't want to give up the money. So that's a big red flag if they say,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, only ever done contingent. We don't do retainer, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, we work with 20 firms. Well, there's a reason for that. So.
Yeah, very, very, very good point there, Jeremy. Thanks for that. Thank you. Bill the Blair.
Terry the Edwards. Great to hear both stories and journeys over the past year. No feedback, more questions that I'd be interested in both responses on. So we talked, obviously we've talked a lot about identity and personal identity. I'm a retained search consultant. I'd be interested, because you've obviously got teams, what that was like actually changing the identity of your business and the team members within them, and what challenges you came up against, and perhaps some feedback around how you overcame them.
Inez, if we go to you first of all, then Michelle, and Stuart, we'll come to you after this.
So is your question how we got the team to be on board?
That'd be a better way of putting it. Yeah.
So, well, luckily we had some results quite soon as well. So that was like, it was on the table, there was proof. So specifically the recruiters really liked it. Also because I think what Jeremy just described, contingency is not just bad terms, it's bad client. It just goes downhill from there exponentially in all aspects. So I think the recruiters often got stuck with crap stuff we sold and they had to sort out. So they were quite happy with the new type of assignments. So they were on board quite fast. And then the sales side, we struggled a little bit with, depending on the person. And we hired and fired as well on the sales side. So that's been a little bit more difficult. But the guy we have on board now there was no choice. He had to go online and watch all the videos of the 90-day course, and he's sometimes on this course as well. So he loves it actually. So you also need to find people that I guess fit this type of work structure.
Yeah. And Jeremy just made no doubt everybody can see that point that Jeremy's made. Again, I agree with 100%, Jeremy. Yeah, delete it off your contracts. Anyway, yeah, it's not what we do. It's not who we are. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. What would your response be in terms of getting your team on board?
Yeah, it's still a work in progress for us, Bill. I mean, certainly it hasn't been across the board. I think the team members that we have left, and again, as Ines said, we've lost some team members that have struggled to make the move and the transition. I think they're still on a journey, and the difficulty is I think people come to their own personal decisions, and also people learn at different rates. They sort of different things resonate with them. So when I have a realization and make a decision, and as a business owner, I suppose I'm used to making quicker decisions and putting everything on the line, if you like, because you have to, and take risks. Others, they'll take the easy road where they can, I think, and they need to come to that place themselves to realize what's best for them. But as I said earlier, that elastic band keeps pulling people back into sort of old habits. So sort of really getting their mind in the right place, and that they believe and value what they do, and that they believe what they deliver in the market. I mean, those are all sort of key challenges I think you have to work on, and obviously keep telling them the same story. So whether it be through this program with the various cohorts that we do. But I mean, if you listen, it isn't just to Terry and Drew, but if you listen to anybody, whether it be sports psychology, business psychology, it's all around mindset. It's all around these sort of who you are, who you believe you are, the affirmations and everything. So it's just really sort of drilling that home. But it is an ongoing sort of journey, really.
Thanks, Michelle.
Excellent.
Thank
Thanks, Michelle. Stu. Hi, buddy.
Going all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good. I would say that it's really useful for someone like me who's just a couple of months into the program to have the stories of Michelle and Ines and people who've been doing it longer, because I think it's when you start the program, you sort of go, right, okay, so we're gonna start the program, and hopefully I'll just keep doing what I've always done and then bill an extra couple of 100,000 a year.
Yeah,
and that sounds fantastic, and we'll just carry on like that, and maybe grow year on year like that. But to actually have people there saying, well, this is the shift that I made, and this is the difference it's made, literally in the numbers. It's just very useful to have somebody a year or so down the line, for me anyway, going through the process at the start, because I think you come into it with your own preconceptions, and like you say, you're quite attached to the old way of working, especially when you've done recruitment for 20 years like I have. But yeah, it's just really quite inspiring for hearing Michelle and Ines' story, and makes me look at the sort of what I think are quite good minimum fees, and you have people going, oh well, I'm getting a bit pissed off for these 25 grand fees. It's like, so can't wait for this time next year when I'm getting pissed off with 25 grand fees, Michelle. I'll tell you what.
Love it. So we're going to record this. I'm going to play this back to you next year, Stu.
Do it.
Yeah, make that decision. You're going to get pissed off with.
Yeah, no. Anybody here can hold me accountable if you like, but this time next year, I'll if it can be done, then there's no reason why I can't. I'll do a 25 grand fee before next year. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that talk. Don, in fact, I'm going to go to Don. Stuart, Don's got a question for you.
All right.
Don?
I was just thinking if you, Stuart, if you had given thought to what your new fee will be heading into, minimum fee that you'll take for any assignment heading into 2022.
Well, I mean, the minimum fee I've got at the minute, and it's actually in my contract, it's only £5,000, and even that for me would have been, you know, historically pretty good. I'd have been quite pleased with that. Difficult to know what the minimum should be, but yeah, I think it should be more than. I certainly think it should be more than that.
I guess. What would you say, Stu? Top of your head.
Why should it not be 10,000? If it's 5,000, why should it not be 10,000?
Yeah.
I mean, you can just keep going, can't you? And,
yeah. Why don't you start at 9,999 minimum fee, regardless of the salary?
Why are you discounting my prices already? I was at 10,000. And you're going down to 999. No,
I'm not a penny off it.
This is bullshit. I'm not. You can't reduce my fees like this. This is ridiculous. I'm trying. You're supposed to help.
Go on then, Stu. Let's go.
So I'll do that, and then you can give me the quid every time that I make a fee for 9,999. Okay?
You're on. Definitely. Excellent. Thanks, Stu.
Cheers.
Excellent. I want to come back to yourself, Michelle, and Inez. So here we are today, and it's fair to say it's not a smooth journey. We never tell anybody, "Oh, come and join us. It's a really smooth journey." So share with us some of the challenges or mistakes that you made along the way that, looking back, you go, "Oh, wish I hadn't done that." What would it be for you, Michelle?
I think it's just sticking to the processes, really, because as I said before, it's all too easy just to, wake up in the morning and stop planning your day, stop following the KPIs that you've set yourself because something else has happened, get drawn into doing something else or the next disaster, or, something's gone wrong, or the news has said something else. I don't know. So I think ultimately, if you can stay focused, if you can plan the day, if you know exactly what the sort of leads and numbers are that you want, the reality is as soon as you start doing that and you do it consistently, things start to happen. But when you stop doing it, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden the world becomes a horrible, difficult place again. And then you have to pull yourself back in and control your mental, your mind and your mental self, and stop the anxiety and the worry, and get back, to the place of, calm. And it is when you plan, when you have the process, when you have the steps and you follow them, there is this sense of calm, of satisfaction, of achievement and control. Whereas when it all goes, there's this constant anxiety, stress, worry, fear, and you don't get the results.
Thanks, Michelle. It reminds me, I was talking to Dan, who a lot of you know is based in Australia, so sadly he's not with us because of the time difference. And at the beginning of this quarter, he said, "I'm going to have my best ever quarter." And I was like, "Oh, great, so what have you got lined up?" He said, "I've got nothing, absolutely nothing lined up. But I know this will be my best ever quarter because I just trust the process." And I just think it was really interesting, very much what you're saying there, Michelle. He just knew that if he kept doing what he's doing, that this quarter, and it's going to be one of his best ever quarters. But when he said it back in September, he had absolutely nothing lined up, but he just trusts the process. And he said, I'm going to smash it for this quarter, absolutely smash it. So yeah, very much endorsed what Dan said. Thanks for that, Michelle. What would you say, Inez?
Pretty similar to what Michelle's saying, and then topped up with Dan, because I'm actually quite sure we're going to have a really good December, but I haven't booked a new assignment for 7 weeks, I think, almost now. So luckily one of my colleagues did. But yeah, it's becoming a little bit difficult to trust the process, but it just makes me feel the most comfortable. I don't know what to do else, and it will work. So I'm not so much worried. I'm more annoyed with myself, but I'm not worried that it won't come. And we've got, a pipeline full of leads. So just somebody has to say yes. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Excellent. So In terms of percentage increase, what's staying with you in this? What's been your percentage increase in revenue over the last 12 months for you?
That's a good question. I think it has been. It's difficult to say. I didn't calculate that one. Can you imagine?
Okay. Well, let me come back to you. I'll come to you in a second then. If you have a quick look at some numbers, and I'm going to come to you, Michelle. I'm going to come back to you, Inez, and then I'm going to come around to everybody then. The question I'm going to ask everybody is, what's been your biggest takeaway so far?
Well, our average fee has doubled, and we've seen a 57% increase on 2020. But the caveat for that was that since March, so we didn't bill anything in January and February. So that's actually been 9 months as opposed to 12 months.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well done, Michelle. 57% increase and you've doubled your fees. That's fantastic. Well done. And for those that don't know, Michelle is one of the most modest people. 57% increase, but she's like, oh yeah, but it wasn't all down to me.
But it wasn't.
Absolutely.
Not all down to me.
No. Well done. Inez.
Yeah, so I think we'll head to a 20% increase, but having said that, January, February, March were lousy. So a little bit like Michelle. So we've really picked up in the last
night. Yeah, excellent.
And I think next year will be, we'll have such a, it'll just be different. Next year will be the big one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Julia, just very quickly before you go, I know you just posted a message there, then you've got to go, but just very quickly before you jump off, what's been your biggest takeaway?
I think it's just been really useful to hear how both Michelle and Inez have transformed their businesses in the last year, and I've taken a lot of notes down about the retained aspect, because I think that's probably a route I should go down as opposed to focusing on contingency.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Julia, and sharing that just before you jump off. So I'll speak to you soon, Julia. Thank you very much.
Will do. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.
Take care. Brandon, coming to you next, buddy.
Yeah, great session. Yeah, appreciate it, everyone. I mean, a couple things. Just the support out of this group is always solid. When you're struggling throughout the weeks and months and things come up, it's nice to hear other people going through similar challenges and make you feel like you're not going crazy with something, and the support and guidance is always very helpful. And then I've recently transitioned to exclusive with an engagement fee up front, and through my time in the course have kind of advanced the collections and kind of that minimum number in my head, and it's been going much better. The relationship, the engagement with the client starts off much stronger. And for those that have heard some of the things I've shared, I was in about as low of a place at one point as anybody in the group probably, and it was very tough to go into that call, but it went well, and I was awarded it, and now it's kind of the new standard going forward. So
yeah, thanks for that, Brandon. Again, another example of somebody that's raised a standard. I'll come to you next, Nick. Again, I'll keep repeating myself, but somebody else in this group has really raised their standards over the last 9 months or so. What's been your biggest takeaway? I'm going to come to John Montgomery and Holly next. To biggest takeaway, but first of all, you, Nick.
Yeah, no, I think really, really interesting. I mean, for me, like Michelle, we didn't do anything in Q1, Jan, Feb, March. So it was like, wow, where do we go from here? And then I think where I am today is, I think I said it the other day, like we've done our number for Q1 next year. That's how much, we've grown. Just because it's retained, it's a project, you work for them, and you just know where your numbers are, and you can enjoy your job doing the recruitment, knowing that you will get paid, you'll get recognized, and you'll get appreciated. So you don't rush, and you qualify people better, and you just do a better job. And I think it's amazing. I think you asked earlier, Terry, if you'd asked me a year ago, would I purely be doing retained? I would have laughed, said, no, do one, mate. What are you on about? Now, you know, it's the only way forward. Honestly, it's fantastic. And I promise you, the Q1 next year is done. And I'm going to work on obviously increasing that. And that's my goal now, is to look forward and look at the quarters ahead, so that I plan ahead instead of just, catching up the whole time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So does that mean here we are in December that really you're looking at working on Q2 of next year now, because you've got Q1 sorted?
Well, yeah, I'll have to as well, but I want to top up Q1.
Yeah.
Because there's other stuff coming through, and some of it is exclusive, mainly retained, but some is exclusive, and there's a 10, 15 grand here that I can just shoe in. Like, I get calls all the time for people saying, can you help? But just knowing that number's done, I'll just top it up. And yes, my goal is to look at Q2, probably next year. I'm already doing calls. And how I've done that is I'm like, just simply today, I've spent the day talking to candidates that we've placed and doing testimonials. And I'm going to get those on my website and get people talking about who you are. I spoke to a guy today. I placed him 5 years ago. He's now running the team. I'd forgotten. And he went, mate, you're a great job. I said, well, we've earned our fee. And he went, yeah, you have. You're brilliant. It's like, brilliant for me. I feel great. I feel I really enjoy my job. But it's all there. And we ignore that because we've been working contingent. We feel worthless. I can say that. I did. Chasing. Now it's like, it's coming to you. You do a good job. It's cool. Excellent. I hope that makes sense. But that
makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And I know it's hard, Stuart. I think I was listening to you. I was there, mate. Trust me. It's just keep doing it. Keep joining these calls. We'll be there to support you. Any questions, you'll come through. I promise you will come through. If you want it badly enough and you listen, it will come through. I assure you.
Thanks for that, Nick. Michelle, I'm gonna come to you in a moment, John. Sorry. Come to you, Michelle, in a moment. And the question I want to ask you is the group calls, and what's been the biggest takeaway that you got from the group calls? But I'm going to John next, because Nick's raised a really good point there about the group. So John, biggest takeaway, buddy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi,
can you
John.
See me? Hi, you're right.
I can't see you, I can hear you though.
All right, okay. Well, as long as you can hear me, I suppose the video's on. To be honest with you, they're quite important, I think, because it sort of realigns your focus. I mean, to go from where we were in terms of pure contingency with the level of processes that we were following were in comparison absolutely minimal in comparison to actually having a sort of specific process that we would follow. So to get all of that into your sort of not psyche but almost routine pattern and habit is very difficult to do all at once. Now obviously when you're making that shift across, it's almost a jump into I hate to say the abyss, but you don't necessarily know. You've got to follow your gut and go for it. And I think that hearing the success stories from other people put the proof in the pudding that the processes do actually work. And a lot of it is hard work, but without hard work, and accountability, it would be nothing. And coming back onto these each week, there's that sort of there's no hiding, is there? Somebody asked, what have you taken away from the previous week? Have you implemented it? What have you been doing? And you see all the other people that have been doing it and the success that they have. Now, I don't see why if I implement those processes and I do the same things that other people are doing, then I will, have the same results. It's impossible not to, as long as you can believe in yourself and you're not scared to put the hard work in. It's impossible not to have the same results, right? It's a reasonably copy and paste industry across all sectors. If you follow it and you don't lie to yourself and you're committed and you believe that you will give a premium service, then it's impossible not to succeed, really. really. But these are important to really hone in and hammer home. And everybody, I mean, I do it a lot where I'll sort of might drop one thing occasionally. It's all about spinning all of the plates, and it's almost a gentle reminder of those plates that you've forgotten that you should keep spinning. And it's not just that. There's a lot of creativity that comes from these different ways and methods of language, or even different routes to market in terms of different ideas, like messaging through LinkedIn groups, or doing this or doing that, or I've had success with this. And then you can test and try that, and a lot of the time you get a lot of value and a lot of feedback and a lot of people coming back to you from all the various different ways that other people are doing. One person, what they say, two minds are greater than one. I mean, how many of us are there here, and everybody's collaborating together. You can sort of pinch things off anybody, really. You just tailor it to your style and what it is that you're doing. That's very important as well. In terms of key takeaways for me, it's pretty much everything that I'm doing in my day-to-day now. Without this process, everything that I do now is on the fundamentals and the basis of removing that mentality of contingency and focusing strictly on retained search. And I think it is vital. I mean, if I look at myself now and I think about what I'm doing, if I think back to what I'm doing now, and I think back to what I was doing when I was strictly doing contingency, if I was in the client's shoes, I would pay myself 10 times the amount for the services that I can provide now to that what I would provide when I was in contingency. It's night and day difference completely. So I think that it is, it's been important for me anyway.
Yeah, great.
And also, if you're getting, lost a little bit and you're a bit scared because of the lag time or whatever, and you're not seeing the results, it's almost reminding yourself of the light at the end of the tunnel when you see everybody with the great results that they're having. You've just got to have the belief and keep the faith that is going to change. Do you know what I mean? So it's important for that respect as well.
Yeah. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much.
All right, no worries.
Holly, are you there?
I am here. I'm not going to worry you too much about the state of the mum bun, but if you do hear maracas and things, it's because I'm trying to entertain my son at the same time.
Yeah.
So I suppose for me, I'm in quite a unique position returning from maternity leave now, because I started the process with you guys working for Michelle, but I panicked and didn't let go of contingent work beforehand. And I think that's something that I need to stay well clear of, and I've learned my lesson from that big time, because the retained work that I've done there's been no comeback on that. And I think moving forwards, it's something that I'm just not even going to consider now, to be honest, because I need to be focusing on the retained stuff. And so getting back involved in these sessions and things is really helping with my mindset from when I'm properly back in the business in the new year. And I'm definitely going to be changing my positioning and how I present myself when I come back. And if that means that I lose clients, it is what it is. But I want to be working for better clients and for better fees to mean that I'm not wasting my time when I am back. So
yeah. When do you come back, Holly? What date?
Officially 10th of January. So okay. But I've still got some bits to do in the meantime. So I'm doing some keep in touch days at the moment, which is helping me to get back in the game.
So there's something you could do from home. I won't go to book a call whenever you want, Holly. I've been going into more detail, but something you could do at home, even during the holidays, is doing some chat. Doing some chat now, because that would get you some appointments for next month.
Yeah, I've got some appointments this week from some chat stuff that I've been doing, to be fair.
Excellent.
So, yeah. But yeah, I will take you up on that if you don't mind, Terry.
No, please do. Yeah, book a call and let's see what we can do. But then I'll make a note. The 10th of Jan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Holly.
Thank you.
And by the way, Holly, the other thing as well, Holly, we have a clinic on a Tuesday. So you can ask any questions. We can do your sales calls, we can do your chat. So all the details are in the Facebook group. But come and join us on the clinic on a Tuesday, because we can look specifically at your chats, what you're doing, and what we can do to improve it to get even more appointments for you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Holly. Michelle, and the same question for you, Inez. What's been the biggest for you, Michelle, the biggest benefit of the group calls for you on a personal level?
I think it's just, as others have said, really hearing from people who are in the same boat as you, and sort of the ideas and the resilience, the motivation, all of those things, because you can see traits in others that perhaps if you hold that mirror up to yourself, you'd see in yourself, but perhaps you're not honest enough to see it really. So it's a good way to reflect and sort of think, and also drive you forwards. And you know, I mean, as I've said before, when Mike presented that sort of this is what you do as a retained search to me, or to the group, and I was like, we do 80% of this and we're not getting paid and we've got contingent, and that was it for me. I was just like, no more.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I think it's just learning from people, and when people like Stuart say about the fees, you know, again, I'm not saying that, you know, a year ago I was happy with it. I would have took a £5,000 fee, an £8,000 fee. I'm a managing partner of a business and I've got 20 years experience, and I'd be happy working my bollocks off for months to get that fee. And now I just think seriously, and you know, I mean, I know £25,000 is a good fee, and it is, but I've spoken to consultants that are earning £50,000 fees and £100,000 fees, and I'm like, well, they're no better than I am. How come I'm working for a tenth of what they are, and yet they're getting it? And I think, you know, it's just that realization. And I know, you know, without the groups, I wouldn't have been exposed to any of that really.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. For you, Inez, what's been the sort of big takeaway for you from the group sessions?
Yeah, I think both ways. So it's on the topics and, you know, implementing stuff and contracts and whatnot. But for me, I think the most important part has been seeing, not as in a fun haha, but in seeing other people struggle as well. So I always thought like, everybody's making so much money and what are we doing wrong? And now all of a sudden, you know, I think Jenny did one of these interviews as well, and she was also explaining the exact same journey. And I think that is when I thought, oh, okay. So, you know, it gave me trust that we could also do it, because people seemed so far ahead, the people that had been in the training for a while. So I kind of looked up to that. But then I realized we've all been in the same place, like Nick has been saying as well.
Yeah. Yeah, really good point. Yeah. And you know, I say this all the time, but I get so much from the group sessions. And we calculated once, there was something like 200 years of recruitment experience in the groups. You can't help but learn. You know, you really can't help but learn. Michelle, again, you know, thank you so much for today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been absolutely valuable. As Drew pointed out, we're going to do interviews for the rest of this month on the live sessions on the Thursdays. We've got a few other guys lined up to interview, so please come along. And we call it modeling success. Look, if somebody else is doing it, as Michelle said, if somebody else is getting fees for 50,000, 100,000, why not you? And one of the reasons it's not you is because all you've got to do is just make that decision. When you say, no, actually, I decide I'm going to get fees of 50,000, and it's just making that decision. And come along to these calls like today helps you in making that decision. Also, to remind you that next year we're actually going to get together. And we want to meet up with you on the 19th of Jan. We'll get some information to you. We're going to meet up in London. So all being well, viruses permitted, we'll be meeting up. Yeah, even with our South African friends, Inez, hopefully you'll be, yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, sorry, Drew, is it the 19th? Or is it, have I got the right date? Apologies for that. Drew's going to get me the right date. It's on the 19th or 20th. Apologies for that. Also want to say to Inez and Michelle, well done on an absolutely frigging awesome year. Absolutely brilliant. Both of you have done absolutely fantastic. Well done. And keep it up. And thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Just to remind you, we're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Terry, I was going to say it's a 2-day event on the 20th and 21st of Jan.
My apologies. 2-day event, 20th and 21st. Thank you for that, Drew, of Jan next year. To remind you for the
Facebook group.
Yeah. Yeah, reminder for tomorrow, recap for tomorrow. So come and join us tomorrow, 3 o'clock UK time. Until next time, folks. take care, take action, and be relentless.
Thanks,
Cheers,
everyone.
folks.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.